Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So my name is Morgan if you're new here, which probably all of you are because this is one of my first YouTube videos, especially in this format. It's my first time kind of just sitting down and talking to a camera and posting it online for the world to see. So welcome. I'm gonna sit here with my pillow because I feel like it makes me feel cozy and less awkward. And tell you a little bit about 6 bingeable series that I think that you should read while you're at home in quarantine or self-isolation. 6 book series that I think are really enjoyable and can kind of transport you to a new world, even for a little bit of time. So if you want to hear what those 6 recommendations are, just keep watching. So the first series that I wanted to share is the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. I am not gonna show a physical book just because this is the only series that I actually have the physical book of. I used to always have physical books for everything, and then I've started reading a lot on my iPad just because I live in a 1-bedroom apartment and don't have a ton of room. I would love one day to have a whole library of books, but it is what it is. So I try to not buy as many physical books, even though that is my preferred way of reading, but we do what we can. So I'll probably just pop like a photo icon either over here or over here of probably over here to be honest, of the book cover and everything so that you know what book I'm talking about. But the first book, the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare, is great if you're into kind of more like young adult fantasy. It's really fun. It is pretty long. It's 6 books, and the books range up to close to like 700 plus pages long. So I'm gonna read the synopsis of like the first book in the series just so you have a little bit better understanding of what the book is about. So City of Bones is the first book in the series, so I'm gonna read the synopsis real quick. I'm gonna be looking down at my iPad just because that's where I have all the information. So when 15-year-old Clary Frey heads out to the Pandemonium Club in New York City, she hardly expects to witness a murder, much less a murder committed by 3 teenagers covered in strange tattoos and brandishing bizarre weapons. Clary knows that she should call the police, but it's hard to explain a murder when the body disappears into thin air and the murderers are invisible to everyone but Clary. Equally startled by her ability to see them, the murderers explain themselves as shadow hunters, a secret tribe of warriors dedicated to ridding the earth of demons. Within 24 hours, Clary's mother disappears and Clary herself is almost killed by a grotesque demon. But why would demons be interested in ordinary mundanes like Clary and her mother? And why did Clary suddenly get the sight? The shadow hunters would like to know. Very interesting. It's a whole world full of vampires, werewolves, demons, angels, shadow hunters with sort of these demon fighters. It's very interesting. It's full of really great worldly storytelling by Cassandra Clare. She does a really good job of really immersing you into the world that these people live in and how it could potentially be possible for this to be a thing, to have, you know, all these stories that you hear as a kid actually be true. Very interesting. It'll keep you captivated if you're looking for something to really dive into while you're at home. This is a great one. I highly recommend it. It's what I'm currently reading now. I'm on the last book, the 6th. I'm about halfway through it right now, a little over halfway. Really hoping to finish it probably tomorrow. And then I can always do like a full review of the series if you want to know more information about it or want me to do a deeper dive into that series. It's really fun. It's got a little bit of romance, a lot of just like fun entertainment. So I highly recommend that series. The second series that I want to recommend, if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my iPad, which has all my notes on it. So the second series that I want to recommend is the Unwind series by Neil Shusterman. So this series is more of like a YA dystopian. A lot of the books I read are either like new adult, young adult. I still read books like I'm 13, but I really don't care. But the Unwind series is a really cool dystopian book. So the basis of the story is this kind of like new American world where abortion was made illegal, but you could unwind your child at the age of 13. So you had to have them until they were 13 years old and then you could unwind them, which essentially meant that you could give them up and all of their body parts would be given to other people. So they would still be living in like a divided state is what they call it in the book. I'll read the little synopsis here. So Connor, Risa, and Lev are running for their lives. The Second Civil War was fought over reproductive rights. The chilling resolution: life is inviolable from the moment of conception until age 13. Between the ages of 13 and 18, however, parents can have their children unwound, whereby all of the children's organs are transplanted into different donors, so life doesn't technically end. Connor is too difficult for his parents to control. Risa, a ward of the state, is not enough to be kept alive. And Lev is a tithe, a child conceived and raised to be unwound. Together, they may have a chance to escape and to survive. Very interesting story. Something that's, I found it to be a quick read to kind of get through all 4 of them. I read them earlier this year and I really enjoyed them. They were really fun. They give you a little bit of everything. I found it to be a really interesting concept to read about because the writer Neil Shusterman does a really good job of making you understand both sides, why it's a bad thing and why people believe for it to be a good thing, like why this became law and why it's not working the way that they hoped it had worked. And it's very interesting hearing it from 3 different points of view, from someone whose parents just feel like they can't control their child and how that child feels, someone that was a ward of the state and what you have to do to be kept alive and not be unwound by the time you're 13, and then a child whose family gave 10% of everything. So he was born a tithe to be given. His parents had 10 children and he was the last one, and so he was born to be unwound so that other people could use his body, essentially. And so it's very interesting. It's a concept that I think he did a really good job of explaining without making it a really difficult read, either side of what you feel morally in our world now. So if you're looking for something that's more dystopian, definitely a whole other world, but something that can be easily seen as something that could happen here in the United States or in, you know, the world here today. But very interesting. Highly recommend that book. So the 3rd book series that I want to recommend is for all of you romance lovers. If you haven't read this series, I'm honestly pretty surprised, but it's the After series by Anna Todd. It blew up a few years ago. I think now they've made it into a major motion picture. I haven't seen the movie. I have read all of the books. There are very mixed reviews on this series. I am a romance lover. The majority of the books that I find that I want to read are romance related, whether they're new adult, YA, like smut, I don't care. I'm really into romance. Call me a hopeless romantic. I can't help myself. I just love those books. A book that doesn't have some element of like a romantic connection in a relationship for me is just not as interesting. So there's 5 books in the After series. Let me pull up the synopsis of just the first one. Okay. There was a time before Tessa met Hardin, and then there's everything after. Life will never be the same. Tessa is a good girl with a sweet, reliable boyfriend back home. She's got direction, ambition, and a mother who's intent on keeping her that way. But she's barely moved into her freshman dorm when she runs into Hardin. With his tousled brown hair, cocky British accent, and tattoos, Hardin is cute and different from what she's used to. But he's also rude, to the point of cruelty even. For all his attitude, Tessa should hate Hardin. And she does, until she finds herself alone with him in his room. Something about his dark mood grabs her, and when they kiss, it ignites within her a passion she never knew before. He'll call her beautiful, then insist he isn't the one for her and disappear again and again. Despite the reckless way he treats her, Tessa is compelled to dig deeper and find the real Hardin beneath all his lies. He pushes her away again and again, yet every time she pushes back, he only pulls her in deeper. Tessa already has the perfect boyfriend, so why is she trying so hard to overcome her own hurt pride and Hardin's prejudice about nice girls like her? Unless, could this be love? It sounds pretty cheesy, in my opinion. I think a lot of romance books, the synopsises can sound a little cheesy, but I enjoyed this book. I did read it a long time ago, quite a few years ago now. I think sometime when I was in college I read it. And I graduated college in 2017. So it's definitely been a little bit of time since I've read it. But I remember really enjoying it. I remember it being a really quick read. It's a very dramatic series. There's a lot of fighting between Tessa and Hardin, the 2 main characters. There's a lot of drama and a lot of not great relationship characteristics. There's a lot of things in this relationship that you shouldn't look for in a relationship, but it's very interesting to read. They're pretty big books, but I flew through them. I think they're a very easy read, and if you kind of want a very dramatic romance, they're in college, so it's new adult. If you're into that sort of thing, it's a great one to kind of dive deep into. It's a quick read, it's fun, keeps you on your toes, you know, give it a shot. On to the next one, which is another romance, definitely more steamy, Then after, if you're not into super steamy romances, I don't know what to tell you, they're my favorite. Pretty much anything by Abby Glines is gonna be at the top of my list for most things. I love Abby Glines. She does have like a more YA series. I forget what it's called, but it's about like kids in high school and their romance through high school, and they're all on the like all the guys are on the football team, and it's a really cute series. I really enjoyed it. I've read them all. There's another one coming out this year, I believe. But Abby Glines is one of my favorite authors, especially when it comes to romance. Anyone who knows me knows that I've read pretty much every Abby Glines book and every Colleen Hoover book. I really like those two authors a lot. But the Seabreeze series that Abby Glines has written, I think, is really great. It's really fun, really flirty. It's a like a continuation series, so each book is about a different couple, but you know them through the other book, so it's really fun to kind of like see all of the relationships build and what people in the series that you don't think you're gonna like, how they become lovable people, and how you kind of are really invested in their relationship when you read more about them and why they are the way they are and their romantic connection with this person. Very steamy, very romantic, very fun. They're not very long books, so I don't think it's ever taken me like more than a day to read one of these books, but I love them. They're some of my favorite books. So I will read the synopsis of the very first book in the Seabreeze series by Abby Glines. Just to give you an idea, again, each story in the series is about a different couple that you have known in a previous couple, but it's then their story. So this is just the synopsis of the first book. Each book is different. It's not the same couple, all 9 stories, but the first one is about Sadie. So Sadie White's summer job isn't going to be on the beach lifeguarding or working at rental booths like most kids her age. With her single mother's increasing pregnancy and refusal to work, Sadie has to take over her mom's job as a domestic servant for one of the wealthy summer families on a nearby island. When the family arrives at their summer getaway, Sadie is surprised to learn that the owner of the house is Jack Stone, one of the hottest teen rockers in the world. If Sadie hasn't spent her life raising her mother and taking care of the house, she might have been normal enough to be excited about working for a rock star. Even though Sadie isn't impressed by Jack's fame, he is drawn to her. Everything about Sadie fascinates Jax, and he fights his attraction. Relationships never work in his world, and as badly as he wants Sadie, he believes that she deserves more. By the end of the summer, Jax discovers he can't breathe without Sadie. I think all of these books in Abby Glines' series are really great. I'm a huge Abby Glines person. I'm a huge fan of her writing. I think it's really fun, it's really sexy, it's really flirty. And there's always like a good bit of drama that you're like, where is this going? Which I really enjoy. I really enjoy a book that's not just like happy-go-lucky times. I like when there's a little bit of drama to it. So I really enjoyed that series. So the 5th series that I recommend is more of a YA dystopian romance. It's the Selection series by Kiera Cass. I read this series a long time ago now, but it's a really fun storyline. So it's a caste system, and it's essentially like a dystopian form of The Bachelor, where the prince has all of these girls from the different castes come to the castle, and he's essentially trying to choose a wife. Okay, so the selection. For 35 girls, the selection is the chance of a lifetime, the opportunity to escape the life laid out for them since birth, to be swept up in a world of glittering gowns and priceless jewels, to live in a palace and compete for the heart of Prince Maxon. But for American Singer, being selected is a nightmare. It means turning her back on her secret love with Aspen, who is a caste below her, leaving her home to enter a fierce competition for a crown she doesn't want, living in a palace that is constantly threatened by violent rebel attacks. Then America meets Prince Maxon. Gradually, she starts to question all the plans she's made for herself and realizes that the life she's always dreamed of may not compare to the future she never imagined. It's very fun. If you're a fan of YA and you're a fan of dystopian novels and you love something with a little bit of romance, this is definitely a series I would recommend binging. It's a very fun series from what I remember. I read it a really long time ago. I don't even know when this book came out. Anyway, It's really fun. It is kind of like a royal bachelor in a way, but I really enjoyed it, and I remember reading the series super fast. So if you're looking for something that has some drama, has some romance, but also has this kind of like otherworldly dimension, I think that this would be a great series for you to read. So the last book series that I want to recommend to you, so the 6th one, is the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard. I read this in the end of 2018, early 2019 is when I finished it and wrapped it up, but it's really fun. My friend Sarah actually right now is reading it, and I just remember loving these books. I think that she is an excellent storyteller, and it's a very interesting concept. So you have the reds and the silvers. So the reds are like your common people, and then the silver are your like elite, your royalty, that kind of thing. And of course a red falls in love with a silver and vice versa. So if you're looking for something that's easy to read, has a bit of drama, has a bit of romance, and it sounds like your kind of style of book, I definitely recommend giving it a shot. So the synopsis of this book: this is a world divided by blood, red or silver. The reds are commoners ruled by a silver elite in possession of godlike superpowers. And to Mare Barrow, a 17-year-old red girl from the poverty-stricken stilts, it seems like nothing will ever change. That is until she finds herself working in the Silver Palace. Here, surrounded by the people she hates most, Mare discovers that despite her red blood, she possesses a deadly power of her own, one that threatens to destroy the balance of power. Fearful of Mare's potential, the Silver hide her in plain view, declaring her a long-lost Silver princess, now engaged to a Silver prince. Despite knowing that one misstep would mean her death, Mare works silently to help the Red Guard, a militant resistance group, and bring down the Silver regime. But this is a world of betrayal and lies, and Mare has entered a dangerous dance. Reds against Silvers, prince against prince, and Mare against her own heart. I thought this was a really fun series to read, and a really fun one to binge if you're at home right now. It's very fun. It's very, it's got some fantasy. It's definitely a dystopian, but it's got a lot of romance to it. I really enjoyed the series. She does a really good job of really making you feel immersed in this world. And there are certain books I've read in fantasy. Fantasy is not always my biggest genre of reading. It's not my favorite, but when I can read a fantasy or a dystopian novel that doesn't make me feel cringy, like when I don't feel like it's super fake, I am really impressed by that. So I think this book, even though they have godlike powers and they have superpowers, and it's not necessarily the world aspect that I find hard to believe when I'm reading a fantasy or a dystopian novel. Like, I can totally see how a world can be divided into castes or have different bloods, how that could go. I completely can delve into something like that. But most of the time when it's like City of Bones, when it's a Mortal Instruments series, or in this series where they have powers, or it's like vampires and werewolves and demons, I really am impressed when an author can make me really see how that's real life and can really make me feel like I'm immersed in that world and not feel like I'm just an outsider that's reading a fantasy story, And I think that if you're looking for a bingeable series, I think that these 6 are really great. I think that if you're looking for something that's fun and entertaining and a way to just kind of forget about the world that we're living in currently, where you have to stand 6 feet apart and you aren't allowed to leave and everyone's losing their jobs and it's a really scary time right now. And being able to kind of lose yourself in a different world can feel really freeing, and that you can take a load off or just kind of get away for a little bit in your own house, I think is really fun. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love books so much, is no matter where I am in my mental state or where I am physically, I can feel like I can transport myself into a new world. So let me know if you want to see more book recommendations, what kind of videos you want to see on this channel. I have taken a deep dive into BookTube since I've been home. I've been watching a lot of booktubers and really finding a lot of good recommendations, and I felt like this would be fun. So yeah, let me know if you want to see anything else on this channel. Let me know if you read any of these series, if you have read any of these series, and what you thought. And until next time, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to this channel for more videos. I would like to start posting more consistently. I think this is really fun and I've always wanted to do it. So feel free to comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And until then, I will see you next time. Bye.